Ragnok 2 was made in 2023 by Dywue Technology. It's the successor of the Ragnok mouse gun, which I have shown in episode 231. The Ragnok 2 is a computer mouse, which for sake of immersion is shaped like the handle of a pistol. The Ragnok 2 is 2.4G wireless capable, but can also be used in a wired fashion. The Ragnok 2 belongs to the handle-only kind of gun mice, which are a bit stealthier and more socially acceptable than other gun mice. If one was to draw a spectrum of mice between the two extreme poles of a vertical ergonomic mouse and a one-to-one pistol replica, the Ragnok 2 would be situated pretty close to the middle, same as the first Ragnok. Dywue Technology compares the shape of the Ragnok 2 with the Heckler & Koch USP, but the fit is not very close. The shell is made of matte plastic and feels sturdy. The face sides have a leather-like texture and look very nice. Compared to the first Ragnok, this second iteration is much more ergonomic and has great button placement for a right-handed player. The two triggers, which by default control the left and right mouse buttons, are exactly where the index and middle fingers naturally rest and are shaped conveniently. Like with the predecessor, those two buttons actuate mechanical keyboard switches. Sadly, once more it's not the advertised key type. This time Dywue Technology claims to use tactile switches, while in actuality they use linear switches. Initially I felt linear switches were a weird choice for a mouse replacement, but in practice it worked out quite well. Way more frustrating though is that Dywue Technology again uses a different switch source than stated on their website. They claim to use high quality Cherry MX black switches, but actually use Uetemu clear black switches. Uetemu belongs to the Dongguan Gao Electronics Group and is a well-respected brand of budget switches. A definite step up from the content branded switches, which they used in the first Ragnok, but not the German-made high-cost switches they claim to use. Creators, who can't put as much effort into videos as I do, blindly believe the advertisement and further spread the false information, which is very unfortunate. The Ragnok 2 is not an ambidextrous mouse. On the left-hand side under the scroll wheel, where the thumb rests, is a sub-miniature microswitch based button which by default is redundantly mapped to the left click. Curiously, this button doesn't engage the optional force feedback, while the upper trigger does. The textured scroll wheel is made of metal and feels nice. It's in a highly accessible place without being in the way. It can be clicked in to act as a middle mouse button. On top of the mouse is a push button switch based button which lets the user toggle between 6 DPI presets. On their website, Dywue Technology makes it look like the DPI button was back illuminated, but in reality it's just solid black. On the front of the mouse is a USB-C socket which is used for charging or wired operation. The USB-C socket is relatively high up, which can cause hand collusion issues for people with adult male-size hands. Under the USB-C socket is a LED, which will briefly glow green when the mouse is turned on and glow red if the mouse is loading. As soon as a USB-C cable is connected, the Ragnok 2 runs. The power switch on its base is just for the wireless operation. The latter is very hard to flick. If the fingernail on your pinky finger is too short, then you might need a paper clip or a similar tool for that. The on-off switch for the force feedback is right next to the sensor opening. On the package, Dywue Technology boasts that the Ragnok 2 was the first gaming mouse with force feedback. That's not true, and it's not even the first gun mouse with force feedback. The Ghost Hunter, which I have covered in episode 229, already did this in 2014. The Ragnok 2 realizes its rumble-based force feedback via an enclosed flat vibration motor, which was put right next to the optical sensor in the base. In my opinion, that location is a strange choice, as a substantial fraction of the vibration gets dissipated to the mouse mat and therefore lost. The feedback is weak and very delayed. Fast consecutive shots feel nice and cause a static rumble. Leaving the trigger pressed, however, doesn't keep the force feedback at full swing, but instead slowly pulses it, which is very immersion breaking while gaming. I ended up switching the force feedback off completely because I wasn't satisfied with its implementation. A standout novelty of the Ragnok 2 is its removable magnetic base. On first glance, the base looks iffy, because the mouse doesn't slip in all the way and because it's not held in place strongly. The base does a great job, however, of limiting tilt motion in X direction. Because the mouse is just held loosely, it can still be tilted in Y direction very easily, which helps to preserve much of the gun handle feeling. Overall, I like the base a lot and I prefer playing with it. But even without its base, the Ragnok 2 is less prone to tilt sideways compared to the first Ragnok, thanks to the new shape and the better weight distribution. In the cutout of the base is a cavity which can store the 2.4G dongle, which is used for the wireless operation. Because of my experience with the original Ragnok, I had to open the mouse and check the sensor. I am happy to tell that this time they indeed used the pixeled PAW3335DB-TZDM sensor, which they claimed to use on the packaging. On several places a typo slipped into the sensor name when talking about it, but to be fair, about 18% of people do this mistake. Sadly, opening the device unveiled another contradiction. Instead of an 800 mAh battery, the Ragnok 2 just contains a 600 mAh unit. This is less capacity than the first Ragnok had. An optional software lets the player remap the buttons to various mouse, keyboard, DPI and media functions. The Ragnok 2 also supports macros. The sensor sensitivity and the stepping behavior of the DPI button can be adjusted in great detail. Settings can be assigned to a total of 5 profiles, which can be managed via import and export capabilities. With under 4 MB unpacked, the software is lightweight. To test the performance of the Ragnok 2, I played Counter-Strike Global Offensive with it. It tracked fast and precise. As a pre-existing gun mouse enthusiast, I needed very little time to get used to the Ragnok 2. I played about as well as I do with my favorite normal mouse, while having the benefits of heightened immersion. Personally, I like the Ragnok 2. It controls well and comfortably. To me, it's the perfect middle ground between a classic ergo mouse and a gun mouse. Its customizability alleviates it from being a novelty to a real candidate for office work. I still like the Ghost Hunter better, but considering its rarity, the Ragnok 2 seems like a valid alternative and I recommend it. I really hope that Dywue Technology gets their act together and manages to avoid future specification mismatches. I confronted a contact I have at Dywue Technology with my findings, to which he answered that the specifications were mismatched by mistake and were written for a pre-production model. The false information was corrected immediately. I think it's very easy to make mistakes, and that it's more important how one behaves about it. Boojakascha is a small niche channel with a limited reach. Still, Dywue Technology listened to me and redeemed itself. This is not a matter of course, and they could as well block my video for their region by filing a silly defamation complaint against me, like somebody else did. The Ragnok 2 comes double boxed. The outer box is thin and features attractive printing with glossy accents. The pictured Ragnok 2 is still a prototype with a smoother black scroll wheel. The inner box is much sturdier and has a magnetic closing lid. It shows a Desert Eagle on top. Inside, it's padded with foam and plastic felt. This is the end of the review. My name is Ben. I thank you for viewing.